Discover the incredible transformation of a homeless Motorhead. They laughed, but she changed everything. Melissa huddled in her rusted van, warmth stealing through the gaps in her worn-out blankets, the biting wind piercing the cracks like sadistic fingers. Sparky, her faithful dog, curled up next to her, shivering faintly. The small Midwestern town outside was unforgiving, gossip swirling like the sharp gusts that rattled her home. People sneered, their disdain palpable, as they passed by with their pristine cars and perfect lives. Once a promising mechanic apprentice, Melissa now scavenged junkyards for old parts to mend what she could. It was hard work, but she loved every moment spent in the motor oil and grease, breathing life back into rusted engines. But disdain was ever present, especially from the wealthy auto shop owners who cast snickers her way. "Look at her," they said, dark laughter spilling from their mouths. "She thinks she can be a mechanic." Yet, beneath their derisive words, whispers of her tenacity began to seep into community corners, igniting curiosity not only about her skills but also about the spirit that drove her. Then one day, fate threw her a curveball. Rachel, her estranged sister, came back to town for a corporate retreat. The sight of Rachel, now a flourishing corporate lawyer, made Melissa's chest tighten. They had once shared dreams, fixing cars side by side, laughing in their father's garage. That dream shattered when life swelled with tragedy, dragging them down different paths. The reunion felt like a cold winter night, full of sharp glances and untold words. "Look at you," Rachel remarked during a painfully awkward dinner, her tone laced with a mix of judgment and disbelief. "Living in a van like a vagrant." Melissa's heart crumpled. Biting back tears, she shot back, "Better than pretending to be someone I'm not." The air became electric, and their shared past hung between them like thick fog. Memories of joy twisted into slices of resentment. Yet, just as the darkness threatened to swallow her whole, Melissa found a flicker of hope. In the local community center, a group of volunteers appreciated her talent and recognized her potential. They believed in her far more than the townsfolk ever had. Under the guidance of an old friend of her father's, Melissa found herself honing her skills, fixing cars with newfound confidence. Word spread about her upcoming entry into a national mechanic competition, and the spark of aspiration ignited hope. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As competition day neared, the shadows of the past crept closer, a reminder of the disdain that lingered in the air. Standing in that brightly lit arena, polished cars gleaming mockingly at her, the echoes of doubt grew louder. But with Sparky at her side, Melissa lifted the hood of a pristine engine, her heart racing with every heartbeat. Could determination truly turn laughter into respect? The answer felt tantalizingly close, yet dread sprawled like a heavy mist. In that moment, she realized, she wasn't just competing for herself, but for the bond that had once tied her and Rachel together, all while the world watched. The lights of the competition arena were blinding, the atmosphere buzzing with excitement and tension. As Melissa glanced around, she could see contestants adjusting tools, eyes narrowing in concentration. Her palms were clammy, and she wiped them on her frayed jeans. Sparky stayed close, sensing her nervous energy, and looked up at her, his tail giving a soft wag. Somehow, that tiny flicker of warmth assured her that she wasn't truly alone. 10 minutes to start, someone shouted, snapping her from her thoughts. The countdown sent her heart into overdrive. 10 minutes. That was all she had before the world would judge her worth as a mechanic, not just as a homeless woman clinging to past dreams. She focused her gaze on the engine before her. It was a clean canvas, ready for her to transform. The soft whir of tools clattering and the hum of murmured conversations washed over her, drowning out the echo of past judgments. Melissa knew she had the skill and the heart. A deep breath steadied her hands, thoughts slowly sharpening like the tools she wielded. Not far away, she spotted Rachel talking to a group of competitors. Their laughter rang out like a serrated knife, slicing through the resolve Melissa had just built. Her chest tightened. It wasn't just the competition anymore. It was about the sister she had once sought approval from but couldn't reach. Rachel had always believed in a different path, the path away from grease and spanners. Just look at her. She could almost hear her sister say, "What would father think?" It felt as if the chains of expectations were coiling back around her, tightening with every passing second. Sparky nudged her leg, snapping her back to focus. She quickly grabbed the wrench and threw herself into the task, each turn of the bolt replacing memories with purpose. The engine responded to her touch, pumping life into a vehicle that had long sat idle. With each step, she transformed doubt into action. Powering through the technical challenges was like dancing with an old friend. Time slipped away, and something deep within her ignited a fierce determination that rivaled the roaring engines around her. The sound of her breathing fused with the mechanical symphony, the rhythm pushing her onward as the final minutes ticked away. Melissa glanced sideways. Rachel had stepped closer, watching, unsure. There was disbelief and something else in her eyes, a flicker of recognition. Could it be pride? 3, 2, 1. The buzzer signaled the end, and she wiped her brow, taking a deep breath to calm the racing in her chest. When the judges came around for inspection, she felt a mix of excitement and fear. They leaned over to inspect her work, nodding and murmuring. This was it. A lifetime of judgment and laughter lit up into something bright and beautiful. Would it bridge the gap between her and Rachel? Melissa turned, steadying her breath, her heart drowning in a sea of anticipation. Rachel stood there, staring wide-eyed. The expression on her sister's face was a question she desperately wanted answered. Had she finally begun to see the truth that it was never just about the cars? But before she could call out, a sudden commotion erupted across the arena, loud murmurs ripping through the crowd. What could it be? She turned her attention back to the judges, but all she could hear was the buzz of disbelief. Everyone seemed to be staring at a figure emerging from the shadows, a face that felt familiar yet distant. Melissa's heart stopped, a chill sweeping through her as she squinted into the bright lights. Who could it be? And what would it mean for her moment of victory? Melissa felt her breath hitch in her throat as the figure stepped forward, the spotlight catching glints of familiar features. It was her father, the man she had tried so hard to impress for so many years, the man who had turned his back on her dreams. He stood there, looking older, his face lined but still powerful and proud, in a wrinkled jacket she recognized from her childhood. What's he doing here? A whisper slipped from her lips just as Rachel moved beside her, startled. I thought he never cared. Neither did I, Rachel muttered, eyes wide as they both stared at the man who had lingered as a ghost in their lives. A heavy specter of disappointment, he was surveying the crowd, his gaze suddenly capturing the judge's attention. The murmurs grew louder, a wave of confusion rippling through the arena. Melissa's heart raced. This was no ordinary moment. This was a collision between past pain and present ambition. The truth was, Melissa's heart longed for acceptance this time. She had fought through so much, clawing her way out of the shadows, only to be met with the haunting presence of someone who had never understood her. She could almost hear the echoes of his disapproval, the past weighing as heavy as the tools she clutched. All those years, she whispered, voice trembling. I never thought he'd care enough to come. Rachel cleared her throat, her eyes fixed on their father. Maybe he's here for you, to see what you've become. Melissa shook her head. Couldn't he be that simple? The gulf between them had always felt insurmountable. But as she stood there, staring into her father's hardened expression, something within her flickered. Could this be the moment that changed everything? As the judges completed their inspection, one of them turned to address the crowd, and her father stepped forward, certainty in his posture. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, his voice booming. I may not be a mechanic, but I know quality when I see it. The crowd fell silent, eyes darting between him and the stage. Was he going to speak out against her? To shame her for choosing a life covered in grease? But as he continued, she felt a wave of disbelief wash over her. I stand here, humbled, to witness the incredible talent of my daughter, Melissa. She is more than an artist of machines. She is a force of nature. Gasps echoed around the arena, and Melissa felt the heat in her cheeks. Did he really mean that? Recognition from him felt like a tidal wave crashing against her heart. Sparky let out a soft whimper beside her, sensing her swirling emotions. But the moment took an unexpected turn as her father gestured to the competitors. Each one of them deserves our respect. Melissa's journey is about more than just winning. It's about finding her true self against all odds. All of the tension from before melted into something new, a mix of gratitude and disbelief. Rachel slipped her hand into Melissa's, squeezing tightly. Dad, I didn't know you cared. Melissa's voice was barely above a whisper, her heart pounding an erratic rhythm. But just as hope began to blossom, a flash of apprehension seized her. Would her father stay? Would this change their relationship? Or would he vanish again like smoke? As the crowd erupted in applause, Melissa turned to Rachel, searching for answers in her sister's gaze. But before Rachel could respond, Melissa caught sight of her father's face. A flicker of uncertainty crossed his features, as if he was grappling with something deeper than the moment at hand. Would this really be the turning point that she'd dreamed of? Or was it just another mirage in her long road back to acceptance? With that turmoil swirling, Melissa realized she needed to take the next leap, not just for herself but for the connection that had always felt just out of reach. And then they both saw it. A reflection in the judge's award, the iridescent glow of victory waiting just beyond all their hesitations. But would they have the courage to seize it? As applause turned into a standing ovation, the real battle had only just begun. Melissa's heart felt like a drum in her chest, each beat urging her to step forward. The applause surrounded her, a vibrant wave that pulled her away from her doubts and into the light of the moment. Her father's voice still echoed in her mind, his words lifting like balloons into the air. She had spent too long locked in that cage of expectation he had built, and now she felt the bars finally starting to bend as the crowd shifted. Faces turned toward her, some admiring, others curious. Was this the girl her father had spoken about? A wave of mixed emotions washed over her. Pride, fear, and hope. She glanced at Rachel, who was beaming, her eyes sparkling with tears. This is your moment, Mel. Go. But taking that step felt monumental. What if her father went back to being the man she had once known, the man who shunned her dreams because they weren't his? Would he pull back? Melissa squared her shoulders, edging towards the stage. Melissa! A voice rang from the crowd. It was an old friend, someone from the garage where she had started out. We're proud of you. For the first time, she felt the weight of her journey. It wasn't just about winning a competition. It was about every late night spent tinkering on engines, every moment she had challenged the world's expectations. With each step, she fought against the little voices in her head, the ones that had once filled her with self-doubt. They were fading, drowned out by the swell of encouragement surrounding her. She could see her father in her peripheral vision, and he was watching her, his expression softening. That flicker of uncertainty wasn't gone, but it was joined by something else. Maybe, just maybe, there was still room for change. Finally standing before the judges, she took a deep breath, letting the buzz of the audience fade into the background. Thank you, she began, her voice carrying as she met their eyes. Thank you for this opportunity. More than anything, I want to inspire others who felt unseen. A murmur of appreciation rippled through the crowd, and she felt a surge of emotion. This was bigger than her. It was about all the kids and dreamers who had faced what she had. For once, Melissa felt like she belonged. But as she finished her speech and took a moment to collect herself, she noticed her father shifting again. He was deep in conversation with a man beside him, his brows furrowed in what looked like concern. Panic clawed at her chest. What if he changed his mind? What if he realized he didn't want to be part of this new chapter? Mel. Rachel's voice snapped her back. Hey, look. Melissa turned back, and there it was, a small trophy in the judge's hands. They were walking towards her. "Congratulations." One of them beamed, holding the trophy aloft. "You've won the People's Choice Award." The roar of the audience exploded like fireworks, and Melissa couldn't contain herself. Her hands shook as she accepted the trophy, the weight of it solid and real in her grasp. But in that moment of triumph, a new question sparked in her mind. What if winning wasn't the end? What if this was just the beginning of a far greater challenge? Could she truly build a bridge back to her father, a relationship that might finally allow them to understand one another? As she swept her gaze around the arena, searching for her father, an unexpected sense of determination washed over her. She wouldn't give up on their connection. She would fight for it. With the trophy clutched to her chest, Melissa stood taller. The complexity of family was a road filled with potholes, but this time she was ready to face it, ready to face him. And just as her eyes locked onto his, a sudden commotion broke out at the edge of the stage. What would this new twist mean for Melissa, and could she confront everything that lay ahead? The cheers and applause faded into a low hum as Melissa's gaze fixed on her father. Then, she noticed the commotion, a figure pushing through the crowd, his face determined. As he broke into the light, she recognized him instantly. It was Jake, the mechanic from her old garage. She hadn't seen him in ages. "Jake!" Melissa shouted, a flicker of hope igniting in her chest. She hadn't expected to see anyone from her past here. He made his way toward her, his excitement infectious. "Melissa, I saw you up there." His eyes were wide and earnest. "You did it. You really did it." He clasped his hands together, barely able to contain his enthusiasm. She smiled, feeling her heart swell like it had just been given permission to take flight. "Thank you. Feels unreal right now." But just as joy flooded her, a shadow fell over the moment. The realization struck her that Jake was also the last person she expected to face her father. The two of them, while never having met, carried the weight of her past. Would the joy of the moment shatter against the reality of her family dynamics? "Is your dad here?" Jake asked, glancing around the crowd. Melissa hesitated, her spine tingling with uncertainty. "Yeah, over there talking to some guy." She pointed, and Jake's gaze followed, settling on her father. A familiar tension etched over his features. Before she could voice any warning, Jake moved toward him like a moth drawn to a flame. "I need to go connect with him, if that's okay," he said, excitement flickering in his voice. "Wait, Jake." The urgency in her tone caught him off guard, but it was too late. In one swift movement, he breezed through the crowd, his determination unwavering. Melissa's heart raced as she watched. She instinctively felt a mix of anticipation and dread. What would Jake say? Would her father embrace this moment, or would he retreat into the shadows of the past? Her fingers tightened around the trophy, feeling its reassuring weight shift against her palm. From a distance, she watched as Jake reached her father. She barely caught snippets of their conversation, Jake's animated gestures, her father's curious expression, and the lighter atmosphere buzzing between them. Then, just as quickly, her father's expression hardened. She could see the lines around his mouth deepen as Jake pointed back to her. Panic swirled in her stomach. She had fought hard to pave a new path, and she could feel the edges of that bridge fracturing. The audience around her remained unaware, lost in their celebration. She bit her lip, drowning in a swirl of confusion. Should she step in, or would doing so only draw her father back into the shadows? Taking a breath, she stepped closer, gathering herself. As she approached, she heard the tail end of their conversation. "You should be proud of her," Jake said. His voice was clear, dripping with sincerity. "Melissa is breaking barriers and chasing her dreams." "I know," her father replied, his tone low and troubled. "But it's complicated." Melissa's heart sank. Complicated. That was the word he always used when faced with her passion. But she couldn't retreat, not now. This was her moment to confront the past head-on. With resolve, she pushed through the last few inches. As she reached them, she lifted the trophy high, its shiny surface catching the light. "Dad," she called, forcing her voice to stay steady. Look at this. This is just the beginning. Both men turned towards her. She could see the mix of emotions swirling on her father's face. Pride tangled with fear. And for the first time, she understood that he might just be as scared of this new journey as she was. Melissa, he started, his voice unsteady. She felt the weight of years hanging in the air between them. Would this moment be enough to shatter the walls that had held them captive all this time? But then, with a sharp gasp, something shifted. A woman broke through the crowd, her face twisted in worry. Is it true? She yelled, her eyes darting around. Did you really win? Melissa's gut churned. Who was she? What did she mean? Her heart thudded heavily as she approached. They sensed that something significant was on the brink of revelation gripping her. There was no turning back now. What lay ahead was uncertain. But one thing was clear: this new challenge would force them all to face truths that had remained hidden for far too long. And as the crowd pulsated with curiosity, Melissa readied herself for whatever storm was about to unfold. Just what had this newcomer stirred up in their tangled web? The woman pushed through the throng, her anxious eyes riveted on Melissa. She was in her early 40s, with hair pulled back in a hasty bun and a worry etched deep into her features. There was something familiar about her, but Melissa couldn't quite pinpoint it. Who are you? Melissa asked, the crowd's noise muting around them as she focused entirely on the stranger. I am sorry to intrude, the woman panted, glancing nervously between Melissa and her father. I just heard the announcement. I didn't think it could be true. What do you mean? With every word, the air grew heavier. Melissa felt the weight of the trophy in her hand, the wind now slipping to the side as confusion took center stage. The woman took a deep breath, steadied herself, and took a small step closer. I'm Amy. I knew your mother long ago. The world around Melissa cracked open. Mind racing. She looked from Amy's trembling hands to her father's stony face. It was as if time had collapsed. Her father's brows knitted tightly, and for a moment, she lost sight of who he was, just a man caught in the middle of a storm between the past and present. Mom? Melissa whispered. A sense of dread wrapped around her heart. What do you mean you knew her? I was close to her when things got tough. I didn't have the chance to tell you, but she often spoke about you, Melissa. How proud she was. How much she loved you. A wave of emotion crashed over Melissa, dark and turbulent. Her mother had been a shadow throughout her life, spoken of only in whispers, the absence weighing heavy on her soul. There were holes in her memories, moments when she wished for guidance or a comforting embrace. But pride? Love? Could that really exist under the blanket of silence that had enveloped their family? Melissa, her father finally broke in, voice tight. This isn't the time, no. It is the time. She shot back, her heart racing. If this stranger knows anything about my mother, then I want to hear it. Amy nodded earnestly, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. You deserve to know the truth. Your mother was brilliant and beautiful, but she struggled. She loved you more than words can express. And it broke her when Melissa's heart slammed against her chest. She wanted to hear everything, yet every word seemed to pull her deeper into a whirlpool of uncertainty. Would this truth shatter her father's carefully constructed walls? Would it heal the brokenness they had all carried for so long? Please, Amy, tell me what you know about her, Melissa urged, her voice almost a plea. But before Amy could respond, a loud murmur swept through the crowd, rippling like a wave. All heads turned toward the entrance of the venue. Another figure appeared, dressed sharply, exuding an unmistakable authority. The moment stopped, and every soul turned to gawk. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the interruption, the new arrival announced, voice booming with a commanding presence. We have an important guest who would like to speak. As everyone focused on the newcomer, Melissa's mind bombarded her with possibilities. Who was this person? What was coming next? And would it help shed light on the shadows of her family? The atmosphere shifted again, palpable and charged, as Melissa realized they were all teetering on the brink of something big. A chance, a reckoning, or perhaps an unimaginable connection. With Amy beside her, and her father's hesitant presence looming close behind, the reality was clear. Answers were about to surface, and none of them might be ready for the truth that lay ahead. What had her mother buried? And could these revelations finally break the cycle of silence before it ensnared them all once more? The crowd held its collective breath as the newcomer strode forward, a sharp contrast to the unease that permeated the air. Melissa strained her neck to catch a glimpse of the figure that had abruptly disrupted her moment with Amy. As the man neared, she could make out the sharp lines of his suit, starched white collar, and piercing blue eyes that scanned the room with an intensity that left her momentarily speechless. Who are you?" she whispered to Amy, trying to maintain her focus amidst the swell of curiosity that rippled through the crowd. "Just wait," Amy replied, her voice low but steady. "I think you'll want to hear this." With a dramatic sweep of his hands, the man addressed them all, his tone a mix of authority and urgency. "I'm here to speak about someone who played a pivotal role in helping those around her. A member of this community who has made an indelible mark on so many lives." "What does this have to do with my mother?" Melissa blurted out, unable to contain the question that screamed for answers. The man's gaze shifted to her, and for a fleeting instant, she felt seen. "Your mother," he began, voice resonating with gravitas, "was a guiding light during the darkest days for many, including me." Melissa felt the ground beneath her quiver. Had her mother been more than just the ghost of a memory? More than the silent figure in faded photographs tucked away in boxes? The excitement of discovery nudged her fear aside. "Excuse me?" Her heart raced as she searched his expression for any hint of deception. "You knew my mother?" "Yes." He nodded solemnly, continuing, "Her compassion and strength impacted not just individuals but transformed our entire community. It was your mother who inspired me to take on the work I do today." "What work?" she pressed, feeling the pressure of time slipping even as every heartbeat drummed louder in her ears. "Helping those in need," he spoke passionately. "When others turned their backs, she was there. She had a vision for change, a vision that sometimes felt too big, even for her. She had dreams for you, dreams of a bright future filled with kindness and hope." The room around them buzzed, but it felt muffled to Melissa, drowned out by the weight of realization. Her mother was not the quiet, shadowy figure she had been led to believe. She was a hero, a warrior for change. The trophy felt heavy in her hand, no longer just a celebration of that night. "What happened to her?" Melissa asked, her voice barely a whisper, filled with a mix of yearning and dread. The man hesitated, and Melissa noticed the flicker of pain that crossed his features. There were many challenges. Sometimes he paused, choosing his words carefully. "Even the strongest people can falter. But she never stopped loving you, Melissa. That love was always her strength." Tears sprang to Melissa's eyes. She needed to know more, the whys, the hows, everything that mattered. As Amy stepped closer, Melissa felt a surge of support bolstering her resolve. "Do you have more to share about her?" Melissa asked, desperation seeping into her tone. Before he answered, the ground trembled again with a sudden shout from the throng. "What about the truth that she hid? What do you know?" Another voice cried out. The man turned to the crowd, his poise steadying. "Everything comes to light eventually. The truth may be daunting, but it brings the possibility of healing." Melissa's heart raced with anticipation, and all at once, the night felt electric, spinning out of control in the kind of joy that felt like fear. The truth was close, tantalizing, and fraught with the weight of family legacies. "Wait," she called as the crowd surged forward. "I need to hear more." The man took a breath, the room falling into expectant silence. "If you seek understanding," he began, "then answers shall be revealed. But will you be ready for what those answers might mean?" Melissa exchanged glances with her father, a mix of fear and determination brewing between them, and in that moment, she felt the weight of old silences cracking. What more would they uncover? The man's gaze met Melissa's again, and for a moment, the world around them faded. It was just the two of them, swirling in a whirlpool of unspoken truths. "I know it's a lot to digest, but your mother, she wasn't just a figure in the background. She brought hope to those who felt completely lost, he said, his voice softer now, almost tender. What do you mean? Melissa asked, each word trembling with a mixture of anger and curiosity. What hope? His eyes darkened, reflecting the depth of memories he carried. She worked incredibly hard to help those who had been cast aside by society. The homeless, the downtrodden, the ones everyone else seemed to ignore. They all found refuge in her kindness. There were nights when she would come home exhausted, her spirit nearly broken, but she never stopped. Not once. Melissa's heart ached. Images of her mother busy with mundane chores flickered in her mind. Had it all been part of an unending battle? What about me? She cut in, the question bursting from her lips. What was I in all of this? You were her reason, he replied, his voice steady. She held on for you. She pushed through every challenge because she believed that the world was a better place with your light in it. But he hesitated, the air thickening. There were shadows she couldn't escape from. A wave of anxiety washed over Melissa as a thought clawed its way to the surface. The shadows. Was she in danger? She asked, every syllable feeling like a weight. The man took a deep breath. The crowd around them absorbed in their own waves of tension and anticipation. In her quest to speak for those silenced, she made enemies. But she also ignited hope where darkness once reigned. That's how powerful her love was. Melissa's mind raced. Her mother, a warrior in her own right, but at what cost? The urgency thrumming in her veins gave her the courage to ask the question that lingered in the back of her mind. What happened to her then? If she was so strong? Suddenly, a commotion broke out in the crowd, voices clashing as confusion spread like wildfire. What are you hiding? A woman shouted, her tone accusatory. You can't just walk in here and expect us to believe everything. The chaos surged, pulling Melissa away from her personal thoughts and back into the reality of the room. She met Amy's concerned gaze, and the fear of losing clarity pushed her forward. Please, I need to know everything. Not just about her strength, but about her breaking point. The man raised his hands for calm, his demeanor unwavering amidst the uproar. That breaking point led to her making a choice that would change everything. Change how? Melissa's breath caught in her throat, her heart pounding in sync with the chaos. Alexandra, he began, his voice both soothing and commanding, sacrificed what she held dear to ensure a future for you and others like you. She had a plan to expose the very injustices our community faced, but it came with enormous risks. While her heart was strong, the truth can sometimes be more dangerous than the lies we live. Melissa felt the weight of those words seep deep into her bones. The truth could shatter everything she thought she knew. As silence began to settle again, the man leaned forward, locking eyes with her. Will you continue to seek the truth, even if it means unearthing painful secrets about those who loved you? The question hung in the air, heavy and urging. Every heartbeat felt like a drum roll leading her into a storm of revelations. I'm ready, Melissa replied, her resolve hardening like steel. Whatever it takes. A flicker of something akin to pride crossed the man's face before he nodded solemnly. Then let us begin the journey to uncover who your mother truly was. As the crowd settled, eager to hear what would come next, she wondered. Was she prepared for the depths of the answers that lay ahead? What truth would she unearth about herself, about her mother's legacy, and where would it lead them both? The man's eyes softened as he began to speak again, his voice barely above a whisper. Your mother believed that the truth could set people free, but it can also imprison them if handled wrongly. She found the strength to fight for justice, but not without consequences. Each time she took a stand, she became more visible to those who wanted to silence her. Melissa felt a knot forming in her stomach, tightening with every word he spoke. She longed to understand, to feel connected to her mother's fight. Yet the ominous weight of danger loomed over their conversation. What do you mean by consequences? What really happened? He drew in a deep breath, collecting his thoughts before continuing. There were those who felt threatened by her activism. They didn't want the spotlight on their wrongdoings. Your mother was powerful, Melissa. The more people she helped, the more she became a target. She had her allies, but every battle comes with a price. Just then, a loud crash startled the crowd, making hearts leap in shared panic. Melissa instinctively grabbed Amy's arm, her pulse racing. The noise faded, replaced by an unsettling silence. It felt as if the air itself was holding its breath, waiting for what would come next. "Every person in this room is drawn here for a reason," the man said, scanning the faces. "Each of us holds a piece of history, a strand in the web that your mother wove to protect those who needed it most. The truth isn't just about her. It's about every life she touched." Melissa could feel the weight of countless eyes on her, sensing their anticipation. She felt raw and exposed, as if her soul was laid bare for the world. "I want to know how I fit into all of this," she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil within her. "In order to understand how you fit, you must first understand the sacrifice," he replied, looking like he was battling some demons of his own. "Your mother didn't just step into the fray to help. She did it while putting her own life on the line. This city, our community, it's filled with people who cried for her to act. But in doing so, she put a target on her back." Fear and curiosity coiled tightly in her chest. "What if I can't bear it? What if the truths I uncover are too painful?" "Sometimes facing the truth will hurt," he admitted. "But it can also heal. You won't be alone in this. You have allies too. You just need to know where to look. The people your mother saved, they remember. They will want to tell you about her. And you must listen." Melissa nodded, her heart pounding with a blend of resolve and uncertainty. She could feel the restless energy of the crowd surrounding her, each person with their own story, their own connection to her mother. "What do we do now?" she asked, fighting the overwhelming impulses to retreat and hide. There was a longing inside her, a fierce need to uncover every part of her mother's legacy. "Now," he began, drawing the room's focus back, "we start a journey. We'll find those people, the ones she fought for, and they will tell you how she changed their lives. Then you'll truly understand who she was." As she took a deep breath, preparing herself for the daunting path ahead, a flicker of doubt pierced through her determination. "And if I discover things that could shatter the memory I have of her, then you'll have to decide whether those truths define her or elevate her spirit even more," he replied, his face steady. "But remember, understanding is the first step in healing. Are you ready for this?" Melissa felt the weight of his words sink into her, anchoring her resolve. "I'm ready," she said, her voice strong now, shattering the remnants of fear. But as the man began to lead the way to the first person who could shed light on her mother's journey, another thought crept in. What if those truths were darker than she ever imagined? Melissa clenched her fists. One thing was certain. It was time to face the shadows, even if they threatened to swallow her whole. The question loomed large: could she emerge stronger, or would the weight of truth bring her to her knees? The arena was filled with whispers of anticipation as Melissa stood at the center of a whirlwind. Her heart raced, a mix of fear and excitement pulsating through her veins. She had stepped onto the brink of a journey that promised to unveil her mother's hidden truths. "Melissa," the man urged, his eyes steady yet urging. "The bonds of family are forged in the fires of love, sacrifice, and sometimes pain. Are you ready to embrace both the light and the shadows?" She took a deep breath, grounding herself in the hopeful strength she had cultivated through the years. "Yes, I'm ready." The words felt like a declaration against her doubts, a promise to herself that she wouldn't shy away. The man nodded, a glimmer of satisfaction in his eyes. "Then let us begin with someone who knew your mother well. Someone who can shed light on how her fight reached beyond herself." As they navigated through the crowd, anticipation rippled like electricity in the air. She could sense the emotional resonance building, the collective energy of people who had known her mother, people who had felt her impact. When they reached a woman seated at the edge of the crowd, Melissa felt an unexplainable pull toward her. The woman was older, her hair silver but her eyes sharp and wise. "Anna," the man introduced, gesturing for Melissa to step closer. "Melissa," Anna said softly, her voice laced with warmth. "I have been waiting to meet you." Melissa swallowed hard, overwhelmed. "You knew my mother? What can you tell me about her?" Anna took a moment, her gaze drifting into the space between memories and the present. "Your mother was a fire in our community. She inspired hope in those who had none. I remember the night she organized the first charity car wash, raising money for families without homes. It was more than just a simple act. It was a rallying call for all of us. Tears prickled at the corners of Melissa's eyes. She was a mechanic, right? But also so much more. Exactly, Anna smiled knowingly. She blended her passions, using her skills to empower others. She showed them that they could break the cycle of despair just like she did. But her struggles, they often pulled her into darkness. With every word, images of her mother began to form in Melissa's mind. A woman full of conviction, hands stained with oil, heart bursting with love for the community. What darkness, she whispered, her voice barely carrying above the noise around them. Anna's expression turned serious. Your mother was powerful, but she didn't always know how to protect herself. There were threats, people who wanted to silence her. She fought hard against the injustices, but the struggle took a toll. Melissa's stomach churned. So she was scared. Did she tell you that? Not in so many words, but I could see it in her eyes. She needed to protect you, and in doing so, she often bore the weight of the world on her own shoulders. Every word echoed through Melissa, a painful reflection of her own fight. What can I do now? She asked desperately. How do I honor her memory? By continuing her fight. Anna said firmly. She took Melissa's hands in hers, her grip steady as iron. You have the same fire in you. Carry that forward, speak for those who can't. Let her legacy transform this town and beyond. In that moment, the weight of her trophy felt lighter, transformed from a symbol of victory into a reminder of her mother's spirit. She glanced toward the crowd, the faces lit with hope, their eyes filled with expectation. I will honor her, Melissa whispered fiercely. Promise. As she turned back to Anna, a sense of solidarity washed over her. Not just Anna, but every soul in that place was now bound to her mission. It was no longer solely about unveiling her mother's past. It was about amplifying her voice, strengthening their community together. As the moment settled, Melissa felt the warmth of her father's presence behind her. She turned, the resolve in her heart mirrored in his eyes, the connection that had felt distant, now flickering with possibility of renewal. I was wrong to doubt, he said, his voice unsteady but filled with meaning. Your mother went through so much, and I didn't choose to honor her struggle, but I want to be part of the change now. Melissa felt tears spill over, but this time they were tears of joy and understanding. We can do this together. Together, he echoed, finally stepping forward into the light as the crowd erupted in applause. The sense of community soared. This wasn't just Melissa's moment. It was theirs. A collective promise to fight for change, to honor forgotten dreams, and to mend the fractures of a family's history. With her heart soaring, Melissa raised the trophy high above her head. For those who fought and for those who still fight, we will change this world. The audience erupted, voices echoing in unity, their determination resonating in waves. It became clear that this journey was just the beginning. Together, they would honor her mother's legacy by ensuring that no one in their community would go unheard again. And as Melissa's eyes met her father's, they both smiled, the shared understanding binding them as they stepped into a future filled with hope. A future brighter than ever before. The world awaited. Now was the moment for transformation. Don't wait not even one more second. You need to subscribe now to catch the next incredible stories we unveil. Hit that like button like it counts. Let us boost this message out into the world. Comment below to share your reactions about Melissa's journey. And don't forget to share this powerful story with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support.